What does the soul have to do with psychology? It turns out quite a lot. Suzi Lula returns to Mystical Sisterhood today to talk all things soul psychology. We cover why the soul has a place in conversations of healing and integration in our lives, and why the world is calling for it now more than ever. Suzi's deep wisdom and understanding that we are actually spiritual beings having a spiritual experience while here on earth leads to our very insightful conversation. Thank you to Suzi for returning, and let's dive into the episode. Welcome back to Mystical Sisterhood. This is your host, Maureen Spielman, and I am welcoming Suzi Lula back to this podcast space. Suzi, I'll say a few words about you before we begin. You are a spiritual therapist, a sought after speaker, and I think of you as a thought leader, an integral part of the team at Agape International Spiritual Center in Los Angeles, and the founder and creator of soul psychology certification and countless courses. And since we do a video recording of this, it reminded me, author of the best-selling book, The Motherhood Evolution, How Thriving Mothers Raise Thriving Children. When I say that to the listeners today, it is just a drop in the bucket of what you're really about and how many lives you've affected and how many spirits you've touched. And so those are sort of the facts in the bio, but we're here today to delve into conversation that is new to the listener. I'll say before we jump in and say the work that we've created together with Mystical Sisterhood, just welcome back and thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. My heart is just smiling. For everyone listening, I know that you must love Maureen because you're listening. And I want to say, I love Maureen as much as you guys love Maureen. I'm so grateful to be here. I love our relationship, and I just really love everything that you are about in your life. You have such pure and deep intentionality, and you're so authentic in your intentions. And I could not be happier that you have created Mystical Sisterhood. I couldn't be happier to be part of it in any way, shape, or form, supporting it, cheering you on. And may we have something for all of you listeners today. May you leave with something, and may you leave more inspired and transformed than you could ever imagine you would be right now.
Absolutely. Thank you for just all of those words, and I'll receive them. One of the tenets of, I think, soul psychology and the work we do is being able to give and to receive. So thank you so much. And we've worked together, or I've had you on the podcast twice. You were the very, I believe, earliest guest that I had on episode 4, and that was about our worthiness. And that was a great way, almost a year and 9 months ago, to kick off what Mystical Sisterhood wanted to say. And to begin with, if I look all the way back and think, starting with that message of you are worthy, I can look back and say that was a perfect place to start. And then many months later, you came, and it's episode 69, and I'll link the episodes, but we called that one The Essence of Change. And that was stepping into your light, self-compassion, and community. So that was a lot about stepping into our womanhood and what it means to be in community and learn in community and share and just be really in our essence within as women and in community. So those were great conversations. And I think for the listener, go back and listen to them, and listen to these in any order you want, but they're in the order that they are, I believe, because of a reason. And the reason I wanted to have Suzi back yet again today, and I think this will be just about 22 episodes later or more or less from when we last recorded, but you are on the precipice of launching your 4th collective of soul psychology coaching certification. And that is really a big reason why I wanted to have you here today, is to share soul psychology with the listeners and really with the world. That's a beautiful thing about the podcast. You have your own podcast, Permission to Thrive, which I failed to mention, but it's here for everyone as well. But soul psychology, that's why we're here. And it's just the perfect time for it to be blossoming. I feel like, I don't know how you, like, you can let us know how you feel about it, but the first 3 collectives we're peppering the seeds, like putting the foundation down, watering it, learning what it was all about. And so what stage do you see it in? And I feel a lot of blossoming around it currently.
Thank you. Thank you. I've loved both of our previous two episodes. So I hope everyone does go and luxuriate and indulge and allow those other episodes to really wash over you. So thank you for mentioning those. And yeah, soul psychology and our coaching academy is just blossoming right now. And I agree with you. These first three collectives, in addition to what you've just said, what really lights me up are the individuals, the women, the coaches, the people, the men and women,
Mm-hmm.
and watching the individuals and the coaches blossom and bloom. And I'm sure we'll get more into it. Not everyone who goes through this certification
Mm-hmm.
has any intention of being a
Mm-hmm.
coach.
Mm-hmm.
Most individuals actually go to transform their own lives
Yeah.
and to create richer, intimate relationships,
Mm-hmm.
to repair things with their children, perhaps, in laws, careers, finance,
Yeah.
all the different areas of our lives. But in watching our community just blossom has blown my mind and opened
Mm-hmm.
my heart. And so I'm really excited for what is to come. And we're ready on planet Earth. I think that people are recognizing that the old modalities of healing don't necessarily provide that effective transformation that we're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that most of us, I'm sure most individuals listening to Mystical Sisterhood, are already on a path of wanting to live that best life inside of us.
Mm-hmm.
There's that yearning inside of us to, we have this one life. Let's live it and experience these amazing relationships, these close connected relationships. And I'm so excited to be a bringer of
Mm-hmm.
the next wave of
Mm.
healing that is really effective on the
Yeah, that's so
planet.
beautiful. I'm thinking about so the field of what people are accessing is in transformation, as we all are. And that the deep needs. I have a friend who, Susan Lucci, she was on the podcast. She is a purpose guide and leader. And she always talks about the deep needs of the world meeting our soul's calling. And so I also see it like on that timeline, if we even take from 2000 on, and how so many things have burgeoned in our world. And it feels like the needs of society in regards to really deep self care, self compassion, and self understanding, I feel like that is at its highest moment of the deep need of the world. And so then how beautiful that the universe provides this timing where you studied and practiced and worked for 25 years and you have the brilliant idea of one day, well, maybe it's time to do the certification. And it's like you created it and then it's here. Now it's this offering that's just growing in the world to meet the deep need and needs of humanity right now. And that to me is just beautiful and timely and perfect. And yeah, just so much.
Yeah, and that's why I think we started with everyone listening. Our deepest desire and intention
Mm-hmm.
is that in just this short amount of time, to recognize that you can transform.
Mm-hmm.
You can be changed even in this short amount of time. So I think maybe if it works for you, Maureen, a great place for us to begin is what in the heck is soul psychology anyway?
Love it.
So
Yes.
that we all start on the same playing field of what is this and why does she put these two words together? Why soul psychology?
Okay.
And my passion is around bringing together, marrying, so to speak, the essence of the soul
Mm-hmm.
with the work of psychology.
Mm-hmm.
And the etymology of the word psychology, if you look back, it comes from the word psyche, which originally meant the study of the soul.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
And so psychology was always meant to include the soul, and
Mm-hmm.
that's how it started. And through the ages, we have become really beings that are living from the neck up. We've moved into this information age. And
Yes.
so we talk a lot and we're academic and we know a lot, and there's nothing wrong with any of those things. And when you're talking about the need on planet Earth, the need on planet Earth, as I see it, is the same need for probably most of your
Mm-hmm.
listeners,
Mm-hmm.
myself included,
Myself. Yeah.
is the need to connect with the soul of
Mm.
us. The planet right now, planet Earth, is so void of soul. It's void of that spirit, that essence, that worthiness that we talked about in the first episode. And I think we're all longing and hungry to live a life where we are connected with awe
Oh,
and
yeah.
the same feeling that we get when we look at a sunset or an ocean. And we've just become disconnected
Mm-hmm.
from the essence of us, the soul of us, the spirit of us. And so I particularly love
Mm-hmm.
marrying the spirit of us. Why am I here? Who am I? That real connection. Oh my gosh, I'm here for a nanosecond on planet Earth when you think about it. And so I want to live a really rich, meaningful, purposeful life that's connected and
Yeah.
intimate. And so there's that side of it. And then, yes, there are the practices
Mm-hmm.
that best assist us to get there.
Mm-hmm.
And so the marrying of these two is very
Mm.
vitally
Yeah.
important to me because I see that in culture right now, when we are seeking to heal from the neck up, we're missing an integral aspect of our being, which is
Yes.
our spirit and our soul. And that's the
Mm-hmm.
essence of us. So let's bring
Mm-hmm.
that back into our lives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's fascinating to look at the origins of the word because I can speak to the fact, having been trained as a coach, that it's like, oh, can I use that word? And can it only exist in a segment of our society? And here you are saying to us that actually the meaning of this word is soul, the origins is soul. So that's fascinating. And also, like, with your soul psychology coming into the universe as an access point or a portal for healing and integrating, is that we really need all these different modalities to choose from. And all of a sudden, we're seeing, and I've seen it amongst all the healers, I've had the intuitives and healers and people working in newer fields, is that it is here not just because it's a over littering of the landscape, but it's here. So we have these choices. So I see soul psychology as this beautiful new choice. We have free will, but to get curious about and, well, what are they talking about? And let's dive in a little bit more. So thank you for the background. And I want to say too, that when I met you through Permission to Thrive in 2021, and Nani and I helped you form the first collective, the roadmap for me to get to the soul psychology certification was taking the beautiful classes that you had created over the years. And so prior to the certification, you were, like I said, 25 years of practicing your craft one on one with individuals, speaking on stages all over the world, but also creating. This is how I see it. And you can add to it, because this is what, when we talk about what are those components of the soul psychology and what do you learn and why would I even want to look further into it, is that I see you as creating the healing the heart of the inner child, the emotional messenger system, the undefended heart from conflict to or connection. Like, I can think because I took all those courses. In each and every one of those courses, whoa, you ask anyone who has taken those courses, any coach who's Suzi has certified, any person in her world who's taken those courses, I used to put on my headphones and I would maybe go walk and get my Starbucks in the morning at Jewel, and I'd put it on. And it didn't matter if it was the first time or the third time, each time I listened to it, there was something new for me. But I want to talk about these components of soul psychology because they came from the body of work before that you had, I'm guessing, sat in say the therapy room with people and you were able to discern what is most important here. Can you say a little bit about your process in the creation and how you got to where we are now, or you are now?
Absolutely. It's so beautiful what you just shared. First of all, I will say that I myself am an eternal student of my
Mm.
own life, a student of myself, I say. So I don't know if I shared this in previous episodes, but I share it very openly. You know, I came from a pretty dysfunctional childhood myself, and yet I always could see this possibility of what could be with our family if only we could heal. And it didn't necessarily happen in the way that I saw it, but it got me really hungry to be on a spiritual and personal growth path myself because I just wanted to heal.
Mhm.
And when you talk about my process of certification, I started meditating when I was 16, dove into so many different ancient wisdom and current modalities and different things, and then cut to just getting the privilege of sitting with just thousands of people one on one. It just became so clear to me, and maybe one of you listening can relate to this, that no matter what our childhoods, backgrounds, status in life, success, lack thereof. You know, I'm in LA, so I have celebrity clientele and I have executives in entertainment. And it doesn't matter, stay at home mamas who are working
Mm.
two jobs and they're a single mama with two kids. It doesn't matter your walk of life. There are just certain things that we all long for.
Mhm.
And we all, what I have found, and I know this was me in my life, I just really wanted to know that I mattered to my own mom, that I felt a sense of connection with her that I did not.
Mhm.
I longed for that. I longed for that reflection that I'm okay exactly as I am. I'm actually enough as I am.
Mhm.
And so, what I've come to know is that we are all born with that. It's like we're an acorn that is going to grow into an oak tree, but
Mhm.
that oak tree knows that its essence,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And so there's a place inside of us that knows I'm this spiritual being. I am an incredible being that is
Yeah.
connected with an essence and a purpose and this authenticity. And then through life,
Mhm.
different things happen to us and we get thrown off course. And so I see this as like a coming home to ourselves, a
Yeah.
coming home to our own heart, a coming back home to who I originally and always was and still are.
Yeah.
That then includes some healing
Yeah.
work
Yeah.
and some ways of being with the places that feel judged or shamed or dark, the places that I don't want to go sit with that. And so it involves a lot of creating safety so we can sit with those places
Mhm.
within us. So I'll just close by saying for anyone listening, if you have that longing inside of yourself, maybe you just know there's a next place for your own career to go, or you just know you want a deeper connection with your husband, or you're even wanting to open to a partner. You mentioned the undefended heart. You
Mhm.
just want to live with less armor and protection. You really want a closer relationship with your
Mhm.
kids. Like there's a pathway back.
Mhm.
All of those outer longings start with this inner connection and
Yeah.
healing within yourself.
Yeah. So beautiful. I am thinking that then for a person to begin, it reminds me of the first episode we did, is a knowing that you are worthy, that I am worthy, that it takes just a couple of steps. And I'm thinking too, as you were speaking, how the generations before us, they didn't have these messages. It may have been, we can all think about the spiritual books that have been out there probably beginning, I don't know, the 80s, 90s, but they were few and far between. But this message of you were born worthy, whole, and not broken, nothing to be fixed, is it's who you are. And I believe that when we bathe ourselves in the messages of that truth, and there's something about like when one hears that, you perk up, and you don't perk up because it's just, oh, interesting and different. You perk up because there's that part inside of you that knows the truth. If we allow ourselves to listen to it and just become curious, it changes lives. It's so beautiful.
Yeah, and I think that this whole reconnection to the place inside of us that you're
Hmm.
speaking of that knows that we're worthy. Also, the opposite can be true. The opposite was true for me, which was I would hear, "You're so worthy. You're so lovable. You are whole already." And hearing it was actually really painful for me
Hmm.
because I didn't feel it.
Hmm.
I heard it intellectually. When I heard it, it would almost reinforce for me, oh, maybe there really is something wrong with me because I'm not feeling this, like all the books are telling me I'm supposed to be feeling. And I think that's another reason why I'm just so passionate about starting soul psychology, like academy and community, because one of the things, and you can speak to this, Maureen, one of the things that I think is so powerful is getting to reconnect with our worthiness in community. If you are feeling like, oh, I'm so alone in this, like I'm doing all the work, but I'm not really seeing that relationship with my child changing, I'm still struggling and I'm feeling like an island and it's not really coming to fruition for me, but it seems like it is for the next girl. I think being on this path together,
Yeah,
because when you have an insight, then something happens to all of us in
that's right.
class. And then
Hmm.
when someone else has an insight in class, that happens to all of us. And so I know I've grown exponentially
Yeah.
being in community with a group of individuals who are truth seekers who practice.
Yeah.
And so I think that the community is a big aspect. And this idea that you're talking about worthiness,
Hmm.
it always lights me up to look for ways to make what you just said about worthiness not just words,
Hmm.
but how can we assist people to actually really experience it inside? Because that's what I was always longing for. It's like, okay, I want to feel what it
Yeah.
feels like to feel I accept myself exactly as I am right
Mm.
now. And I am the essence of nature and that sunset and that ocean. I wanted to know it from the inside out.
Yeah.
And I love that about soul psychology, at
Yes.
least the way that I teach it is very experiential.
Yes.
So
Hmm.
I'm not wanting it to be just intellectual. The intellect is excellent and wonderful, and we need it and we want it. But to have somebody really feel that in your heart today, and if you're
Yes.
even getting a little glimmer or glimpse of it right
Hmm.
now, then build upon that.
Yeah. And it reminds me of, I want to talk a little bit more about the soul because, yes, psychology means soul. Like, but when we get, most of us, I guess I can say for myself, my relationship with the word soul was limited to what I heard in the Catholic Church. And so, what are we here to know about ourselves as a soul? Because that is a big component of soul psychology. And there are these tools. And I love how you just highlighted experiential, because I do want to talk a little bit more about that if we can. But just this idea of the soul. And man, if I really reflect on it too, the soul as we know it in modern culture has been highly disregarded. And I don't know if souls also are in a collective where they're like, hey, it's our time to really, we want the individuals that we are connected with to, because I know it's not our, I think I've heard like our body doesn't house our soul. It's more that our soul houses our body. It is the soul's time. So, what do we want to know about the soul? What do you want to share?
I love that you're asking this question because I didn't want to interrupt you a couple of comments
Yeah.
ago, but you mentioned something about, you alluded or referenced the soul.
Mhm.
And I was going to say that even for me, these teachings, they are coming to me, coming
Mhm.
through me. And I a little bit at the beginning resisted the word soul for the very reason you're talking about,
Mm-hmm.
because the soul has been so misunderstood and the soul has been relegated now to religion. Exactly what you're saying. Where most people connect the word soul would be with religion.
Mm-hmm.
And religion has become so constrictive and hierarchical and an institution. And so I love that you're bringing this up. And I love the way that you're bringing it up because I do believe that we're attracted to each other, like minded, like hearted, and someone listening to Mystical Sisterhood. You're not going to
Mm-hmm.
tune in to a podcast called Mystical Sisterhood unless you're part of this soul tribe. However, you want to
Mm-hmm.
language that,
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
think we come together, we're soul families.
Yeah.
And it's like choosing friends. You choose
Mm-hmm.
friendships with whom you feel safe with and joy with and connection with. So I do believe in
Yeah.
soul family, so much so that I tell people like, okay, in the next lifetime, if there is one, let's do this again. I've told
Yeah.
that to my son 1,000 times. Let's
Great.
do it again. I think I've
Yeah.
told you at
Mm-hmm.
least 100 times, like,
Mm-hmm.
Maureen, one lifetime with you is not enough. So
Yes. Yeah.
anyway, I digress. But I love the idea that it's our time.
Mm-hmm.
And I've never been one to push the envelope. I'm like better safe than sorry kind of
Yeah.
girl.
Mm-hmm.
And I admire people who speak out and push the envelope. I
Mm-hmm.
admire people like that. I remember when I was writing my book, The Motherhood Evolution, my editor really, and many individuals agreed that I should call that book something like Put Yourself First, or
Mm-hmm.
the subtitle, Putting Yourself First as a Mother is the greatest gift you can give your child.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, I wasn't an envelope pusher. So back to the soul, I feel that now, yes, it's very important
Mm-hmm.
because, as you're saying, the soul has been relegated, it's been pushed into a closet. But the soul is the essence of us. Like you're saying, our body does not house our soul.
Mm-hmm.
Our soul is huge and it houses
Mm-hmm.
our body. The
Fascinating.
body is at
Mm-hmm.
home in our soul.
Mm-hmm.
And it is an invisible presence. I can't see your soul, but I for sure can feel it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it's invisible and so it gets disregarded
Yeah.
in a world that regards and values a bank account, a marriage, what we can see, a car, what we can feel. There's nothing wrong with any of that. That's wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
But the invisible is disregarded.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just start there. So another word for soul could be essence. Any one of you listening, if you just take a moment and close your eyes, you will know that there is a part of you that's authentically you, that this world can manipulate and condition you around, but there's a part of you,
Mm-hmm.
there is an essential, authentic part of you. So we could call it authentic psychology,
Yeah.
getting back to your essence, getting back to your authenticity. But the
Yeah.
soul of us is great, it's
Mm-hmm.
large, it's your essence. You are not going to be on this planet
Mm-hmm.
forever.
Yeah.
At some moment, you're going to leave this planet.
Mm.
And when you leave this planet, that is when most people have the realization, I'm a soul.
Yeah.
Because you're
Mm.
leaving, you realize,
Yeah.
oh my God, my journey on this earth with these
Mm-hmm.
kids and this husband and this house is over.
Beautiful. Yeah.
And I'm something greater. I'm going on. And so, what I want to do is bring that feeling and that
Yeah.
awareness and that recognition into your life right this second. So, you live the rest of your life recognizing, oh, this world has told
Mm.
me I'm so small. I'll say one more thing. When you're born, when every one of you listening was born, you were born into a consciousness. You're just lying there naked, undefended as a baby. You know, I'm worthy. I'm prosperous. I'm enough. Just lying here, earning my keep not yet. I'm just lying here. I'm a being. I'm worthy. And when either parents, teachers, schools, the world tells you enough times, oh, but your skin color. Oh, but your lack of education. Oh, but you're not thin enough. Oh, but you're not tall enough. Oh, but you're not this. Oh, but you need to buy that in order to be this. Oh,
Mhm.
you have to consume this. When the world tells you enough times,
Mhm.
you start to believe, oh, I guess I'm not really enough. I guess I'm not really all that. I guess I'm not really here to shine and to live this extraordinary life. And so
Right.
I'm here to rebuke that, right? You are.
Mhm.
And that's
Mhm.
why I call it a homecoming, because
Mhm.
you knew it from the beginning.
Yeah.
You're going to know it again when you leave this earth. And why not inhabit it all during your life, starting today in your
Yeah.
relationship with your husband or your relationship with your
Mm.
children, your
Yeah.
relationship with yourself?
And it's right. It's making me think about, first of all, thank you for that really beautiful description, because that right there is the essence of soul psychology.
Yeah.
And I do think that is a very important principle. I was going to go one direction, but what was coming to mind when you were first speaking is not only is it relegated to religious circles, but also spiritual ones that one might say is woo woo. And I'm sort of almost laughing about that here because it seems to me like very much the truth. And culture somehow has, pushed to the margins this meaning, probably to keep other systems in control and in dominance. And yet, all along, it was here for us to discover that we were mostly a soul and that everything else was, it feels like, within that. But we have been overvalued for our mental, like, intelligence, cognitive capacities, the size of our body, how many years we've been married, whatever, how many degrees we have behind our name. But it's all not the truth of who we are. It's not the essence. And so I love that you want to bring, let's not wait until we're on our deathbed and have crossed over to feel that expansion. And I've heard you say that before a lot. Let's begin now. And I have a screensaver, one of the screensavers on my phone. It won't come up, but it was something you said in one of the classes. And it said, you said, I want to know the truth of the universe more than anything else. And I've heard you say that several times. And so, what is the invitation here then for anyone listening who's thinking, gosh, what a fascinating conversation. I haven't thought of it that expansively or in that way, or I don't know. How can soul psychology start to operate as a way of
Being.
thinking and being in their
Yeah.
lives?
Yeah. I'm going to use myself as an example.
Hmm.
And then as you're listening to my story, maybe you can plug it in, for those of you listening, to your marriage or your parenting or your career or your seeking
Hmm.
a life purpose, or you're seeking to stop smoking or drinking or any of the things, right? Just where you are in your life right now, right?
Hmm.
You're thinking about getting separated or divorced, or maybe you just have, or you're thinking about getting back into a relationship. Anything that's real and relevant in your life. I do want to say one quick thing about the soul. As you were speaking, I thought of another quality of the soul. You could call it your intuition, because each one of us has that inner knowing that also, because of capitalism, we have been taught to disregard. Oh no, trust everything external. Don't trust your own internal wisdom, intuition. Those are other words that are synonymous with your soul. And when you
Hmm.
think about that, there is a place inside of you, your soul, that right now, no matter what's going on in your life, any of the things I just listed, maybe you are thinking about getting separated, maybe you are having challenge with a child, maybe your child is moving through an addiction, or all the different things that may be in your world. I want you to know that there is a place within you, that larger place within you. It is perfectly at peace. It is perfectly calm. It knows that you are here to move through those things. And if you allow it, it will
Hmm.
help you rise up, see the higher meanings. It will help you get through what you're getting through. That is the soul, that is this intuitive place. So, how that factors then into your question about
Yeah.
someone just listening, how could this possibly be important in my life and how can I incorporate it? I will say for myself, I've been on this journey, as I said, since I was about 16. Get married. My partner's also on a spiritual path. Check. then I become a mom. And when I became a mom, I had all of these ideas about the mom that I wanted to be for my son, Will. And even with all of those ideas, and even with all of that study and personal growth, I was not creating the relationship with him
Mm-hmm.
that was anywhere close to what I really envisioned
Yeah.
because I wasn't showing up. And I was stumbling and fumbling and getting in my own way left and right. And what was worse was that I could see it
Yeah.
and I couldn't really
Mm-hmm.
climb out of it. So I was in this tangle, I was in this knot, and I could see it, and it was extremely painful. And the way it showed up for me with Will, and he was a very compliant little boy, really
Yeah.
cool little easygoing boy. And I would yell at him. I would be impatient with him. I would outpower him at every moment, even in the nicest of ways, you know. And then as I was watching these ways, and every single morning I would wake up and I would vow,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be kind to him today. I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to be patient with him today. He deserves my patience. He doesn't deserve a mom who's yelling at him. I would vow that every morning. And for sure by 8 a.m., I was not that mom. So what happened was I recognized, oh, I'm becoming my mom. There are these generational patterns,
Yeah.
this energy that I was brought up in that is still within me, within my nervous system. It's in me, and I'm now spewing it out on him. So I began to see how I fit in to these generational patterns.
Mm-hmm.
I was a kid who felt disconnected from my mom.
Yeah.
So now I'm recreating my kid not feeling connected to me.
Mm-hmm.
That was very painful. And so
Mm-hmm.
when you talk about how can soul psychology, then soul psychology became my lifeline.
Yeah.
And that's when I really got, I mastered these processes because I was so desperate because I did not want to A, mess up this poor innocent being,
Yeah.
and B, I wanted a close connected relationship. I wanted, that was at the top of my value system with him.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And when I began to realize, oh, I've been indoctrinated into this, that's when I realized I needed to learn to be present with myself. I needed to learn how to heal these places inside of me that were carrying on what had been done to me.
Mm-hmm.
What had been done to me, what I had lived through, I was now passing on.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like no bueno.
Yeah.
It
Mm-hmm.
stops with me. And so it is the combination of connecting back with the younger part of me that did not receive what I needed. And I had to learn what those things were that I did not receive.
Mm-hmm.
I had to learn how to give those things back to myself. And I had to learn that I actually was perfect and whole and enough, even in the midst of learning to be more patient, not to yell,
Mm-hmm.
to cut these generational
Mm-hmm.
patterns.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say, I to this day have a very close connected relationship with my son. It did not come without a
Mm-hmm.
lot of practice and this marriage of spiritual psychology. But I will tell you, A, if I can do it,
Mm-hmm.
anyone who wants a closer connection with their marriage, learning how to choose a partner more
Yeah.
wisely, make more money, if I can do it,
Mm-hmm.
I can guide you through it.
Beautiful.
If I can do it, you can do it. And then lastly, I will say all of our coaches, we watch each other.
Mm-hmm.
We watch each other grow.
Yep.
And we
Mm-hmm.
watch each other go from wherever you might not be the person who's impatient in your relationship. You have other pathways of learning for your soul's growth. But we watch each other
Mm-hmm.
learn how to give this to themselves,
Yeah.
connect with that higher part of themselves, and then live. I live now, literally, I am a different being, in the cells of my being, I'm
Mhm.
different with Will. I'm
Mhm.
different. I'm different.
Mhm.
I'm
Yeah.
different. And he feels it.
Mm. I love that. And I think about you and those times as a young mother and how painful of a place that can be. And I really think that the listeners and myself can relate to that. And I do believe that a lot of healing does occur in when we feel safe and we're seen by others, and that vulnerability leads to change. And I agree. There's so much to say here. And I can, like, when you, because I've studied under you, when you say that process with Will, I know you began to heal the heart of your inner child. I know that you deeply got to know your own emotional messenger system, which was one of your classes, and coined names for knowing how to read our energy and motion and understand it, seeing where you have a knot in consciousness and what you want to apply to that, and really so much learning the language of self-compassion and the language and energy of appreciation and acknowledgement. I'm just like going through listing, like, oh my gosh, like underneath soul psychology, here's all this sort of like these offerings. And what I think about when I think about our community too is we remind each other of our truth. And that makes me want to cry because as I said in the notes that I sent to you that I didn't even barely get to because of the flow here, it is lifetime work, lifelong work. And it's like, but it's not, I was thinking of even of the work you do and wanting another name for that. It's a lifetime commitment. And what are we committed to? And what do we want to experience? What experiences do we want to have in our families? And what do we want to see out in the world? Because this work really matters, and it's not an offering that's here and is going to go away. It's here to stay,
Mm.
and it'll change you, it'll change your life, it'll change your family's life, it leads to so much transformation. And you always say, like, when earlier in the talk when we were talking about the certification, and you were saying that it's not just for coaches, it's for individuals on the path of deep self-commitment and personal growth, is that you always say that one phrase, like, your transformation is your biggest credential. And that is true for coaching, like to go sit with a coach. And that goes for a therapist too, who has done the work and has committed to their own looking at themselves. But also, can you just speak maybe to that? Your transformation is your biggest ticket, but because I feel like it applies. And how does it apply when we use it in our personal lives too,
Well,
not just in that coaching
yeah,
chair?
you're taking the words out of my mouth. My transformation that I just described in myself, which was radical and dramatic, with
Hmm.
where I came from to where I am now, mothering Will,
Yeah.
that transformation is my greatest credential as a parent.
Hmm.
My transformation,
Hmm.
nothing I read in a book. And I've read amazing books and I've had wonderful mentors, and I have a book, but it's not what you'll read in a book. It's
Hmm.
that I am a different woman. I am a
Hmm.
different
Hmm.
being. I've
Hmm.
healed these places.
Yeah.
I'm different.
Yeah.
And that is so soul satisfying.
Hmm.
And it is my greatest credential.
Yeah.
And it is then becomes my greatest credential as a coach, because when I have gone from where I began to the freedom and the liberation
Hmm.
and the healing and the expansion that I experience now, then I can pass it on,
Yeah.
because it's not something that I read in a book. It's
Hmm.
something that I did in my own life.
Hmm.
And I have a relationship with my son as the outer evidence of
Hmm.
an inner journey.
Hmm.
And I think what I would want anyone to hear is that the thing that lights me up the most and that can most radically and dramatically change your relationship right now with your spouse or your child or your career or whatever it is that is important to you in your life right now, if you're hungry for this and you're ready for growth and expansion, it would be that when you combine the essence of the soul, your soul, with the practices of this experience, these processes, you will witness an inner relationship with yourself
Mm-hmm.
that is not from the neck up. So most of our relationships with ourselves are based on the intellect. Oh, if only my arms were tighter right now, and if only I didn't have this, and if only I made this much money, and then I'll be, if only my marriage was this, if only my kid went to this school. It's so
Yeah.
externally oriented. And so we're in a relationship with ourselves that is very from the neck up and
Mm-hmm.
full of judgment. And to me, the thing that lights me up and is so possible for every single one listening is that what you long for in a relationship with your son, for example, or a child, or what you long for in a love relationship, for example. I longed for a connection with my mom. I longed
Mm-hmm.
for a connection with my son. The thing that lights me up is that, wow, I didn't know that I could create such a loving
Yeah.
relationship with
Mm-hmm.
myself. And with that, for everyone listening, you have gone through different experiences in your life. And so you identify yourself in certain ways, you think of yourself in certain ways. And so within you, there is that younger part of you that got molded and
Mm-hmm.
conditioned and is thinking less of yourself than who you really are.
Yeah.
And then you go out, picture that in your
Mm-hmm.
relationships.
Mm-hmm.
But inside of you, there's a little girl or a little boy or
Mm-hmm.
a little they that is just longing for you to come rescue you,
Mm-hmm.
that
Mm-hmm.
wants you to feel good about you,
Yeah.
that wants you to be in awe of who you are meant to be. And that is an enormous part of what soul
Mm-hmm.
psychology offers.
Mm-hmm.
I have a different relationship
Mm-hmm.
with myself, Maureen, than
Yeah.
I ever thought possible
Yeah.
through these teachings and practices of compassion and just the way we work with ourselves.
Yeah. I want to ask you, when someone tells you you are worthy now, what do you feel and say?
I say what you said when I was acknowledging you at the beginning today. I say,
Oh,
thank you. I will receive that.
yeah, it's so beautiful.
Isn't that
Well,
funny that you would
yeah,
ask that?
yeah, I love
That's
it.
what I
Yes.
feel. I say thank you and I will receive that.
Yeah.
And I want to say to everyone listening, that is not how I would have always.
Yeah.
If you would have said, you're so worthy, you're so this, you're so that in years past, I promise you, in my own mind, maybe I would have smiled and maybe I would have said thank you out loud. But in
Hmm.
my mind, I would have said, yeah, but.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, but I'm
Absolutely.
still impatient
Hmm.
with Will. Yeah,
Yeah.
but I'm not there yet in my career. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
but my marriage isn't. There would have been a yeah, but inside of me. And now I can, with all honesty and transparency and humility,
Yeah. Hmm.
say, thank you. I really appreciate that. And I receive it. And bring on more, please.
Yes.
I will take
Absolutely.
more of that because we're just beginning. Like, I want more of this.
Yeah.
I want more of this. And I see now that this is just the beginning. We are
Hmm.
unlimited. And
Hmm.
once you get a taste of it, it's like, I
Yes.
want to be a greater partner to Jamie. I want to continue this flow
Mm-hmm.
with Will.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
want to be the most effective coach I can possibly be and
Yeah.
share this with as many people as humanly possible on earth.
Yeah, so beautiful. I love that all, Susie. And yes, it's the work that's being created. It's the work you do. It's the work you've trained me in, and countless number of coaches. So if anyone there, if it resonates with anyone, please reach out to either of us. I want to just remark before we finish that I believe this episode is going to come out in a couple of weeks. So the last week of September. And I believe you have a Healing the Heart of the Inner Child 2-day masterclass going on. Will you share about that and just when your next psychology cert or academy certification will be held?
Beautiful. Thank you so
Hmm.
much.
Hmm.
So, yes, September 26th and 27th. So, right after, if you're listening to this, please sign up. We'll put it in the
Hmm.
show notes.
Hmm.
I'm going to do a really deep dive into most of the topics that we've talked about today. And rather than talking about them
Hmm.
for these 2 hours, an hour each day, I am going to take you through these experiential processes where you yourself can begin to feel and experience that inner self love, that inner self compassion, that connection to those younger parts of you that didn't get their needs met, and how to meet those needs, and then how to bring it into
Hmm.
your relationship. So it's going to be a very experiential 2 days. Lots of my coaches will be there, so you will get some
Hmm.
hands-on one. They'll be up speaking and guiding through processes. Maureen will be there. So there's that.
Yeah.
And then to your other question, January 2025,
Wow.
we begin the collective. So in between then, I will
Hmm.
be doing a Healing the Heart of the Inner Child course where you
Yeah.
can get to know my
Yeah.
coaches at a much lower price point. And then if you are at all, if anything about this intrigues you, interests you,
Hmm.
whether you ultimately sign up for the certification or not,
Hmm.
please
Hmm.
reach out to us,
Yeah.
get to know more about what this is and how it can exponentially heal and transform the quality of your life.
Absolutely. Thank you for all of that, Susie, and your generosity in sharing the work with us today. It's so much to soak in, and I don't know, I loved every minute of it. So thank you. And
Thank
thanks,
you.
yeah, thanks to the listeners for being here, and reach out, and I'll include Susie's Instagram and website in the show notes as well. You know where to find us, and we'll see you in the future.
Thank you, Maureen. I want to say also, I'm so very proud of you and happy for you. And this world needs more sisterhood.
Yes.
Our world
Yes.
needs sisters
Thank you.
cheering each other on, supporting each other, just rising with each other. So I just couldn't adore you more. I think your work is so seminal and important right now,
Mhm.
relevant, and just so
Thank you.
grateful to have you in my life.
Thank you so much. All right. Listeners, we'll see you in the next episode. Thanks for listening to this episode of Mystical Sisterhood. To learn more about my one-on-one coaching programs or join the Mystical Sisterhood membership, visit maureenspielman.com or mysticalsisterhood.com. Thanks so much. I'll see you in the next episode.